Hey guys, welcome back to Anime Gossips. This is my recap for the anime studio apartment, good lighting, angel included. The story begins with an angel who was advised to learn more about humans. Upon arriving on Earth, she realized the beauty that humanity has been enjoying, which made her feel happy. Then we see a loser boy named Shintaro, a young high school student going home late in the day. His day was really hectic. On his way home, a kitten came to give him some affection. Shintaro remembers he had picked up a kitten in front of their house when he was a kid, but eventually, a cat-loving neighbor took the kitten in and looked after it. Shintaro started living alone during his high school days, though he is getting used to it. Shintaro couldn't control his tiredness, so he fell onto the bed and dozed off that night. While he was sleeping, a white feather dropped into his apartment. The next morning, Shintaro wakes up by the alarm on his cell phone, finds himself some milk, then notices the window wide open. He moves closer and finds a girl lying on the floor. Shocked, he accidentally spills the milk from his hand onto the ground and onto the girl as well. He assists her and offers her a towel to dry herself while he is busy thinking. Shintaro offers the girl a cloth to cover herself. He is nervous and acts strangely. The girl introduces herself as Toa and they exchange names. Toa expresses her gratitude by complimenting Shintaro for his pure-hearted behavior. From there, Shintaro begins to have thoughts and feelings about Toa, admiring her beauty. They engage in extensive conversation about families, homes, and other topics. Shintaro asks Toa the reason for sleeping on his balcony, but all Toa can say is that she wants to express her gratitude to him. She tells Shintaro that he should request anything from her, but Shintaro has nothing to ask for. She feels sad to hear that, and with no other option, decides to cook despite having no ingredients. Then she decides to clean up Shintaro's messy apartment. After some time of fun together, Shintaro advises her to go back home, thinking that Toa ran away from home. He asks for the location of Toa's home, and she weirdly answers heaven. With a full explanation, Shintaro realizes he has been talking with a loco, a dangerous kind of runaway. Toa says she was sent to Earth on God's orders to study humans on behalf of all angel kind. Shintaro is confused, and in addition, Toa requests that she wants to stay there for a while. Suddenly, Shintaro's alarm rings, indicating work in 30 minutes. He realizes he has to go to work. They both head out. Shintaro tells her to go home and stop being a runaway. He still doesn't completely believe that Toa is an angel. At work, Shintaro doesn't enjoy himself. He has to leave work earlier. He pleads with his boss and heads towards his home. Suddenly, he thinks about the girl, wondering if she actually went home or not. While he is thinking about her, he sees Toa with a man who intends to take her to a hotel. After hearing this, Shintaro grabs her hand and leaves the scene. On their way, Shintaro tries to explain to Toa about her hangout with the man, but he passes out. After some time, Shintaro wakes up in his home. Actually, Toa took him home, stayed by his side, and took care of him. Toa offered him some porridge, which she made with some leftover bread and milk. Toa went further to feed him. To Shintaro, it's been ages since someone cooked for him. Shintaro gets better after the meal. He tells Toa not to follow strangers, knowing how dangerous people outside can be. Toa was sad because she has nowhere to go. Shintaro then allows her to stay with him in his apartment, and after hearing this, she was excited. While she was filled with joy, Shintaro was concerned to know how Toa carried him there, as he must be heavy. Toa says there's no trouble as she just flew there. Shintaro doesn't understand what she means. Toa then shows her wings, saying she is an angel. The next morning, Shintaro wakes up thinking all that happened was a dream. Then he is shocked to see Toa sleeping next to him like a cute little girl. Toa also wakes up and says good morning to him, but he asks her why she is on his bed. She then replies to him that there's only one bed. Then they both go shopping to get themselves breakfast. Unknowingly, Toa was excited due to a free plate for collecting enough stickers from the springy steamed bun, which made her wings come out in the convenience store. Shintaro instantly yells at her to hide them. Back at home, Toa apologizes. She reveals that she lets them show when she gets excited. She says she learned all about the mortal realm from the Good Kid's Guide to Life on Earth book. Curiously, Shintaro asked about the duty of an angel, to which Toa explains that it involves conveying God's will to the people, and their primary job is to ensure souls don't lose their way between heaven and earth. Most importantly, she mentioned that they are destined to bring happiness to humans. Shintaro asked her about what is included in the happiness of humans. Surprisingly, Toa herself does not know, and says that it is part of the reason she was sent to Earth by God. Toa enjoyed the steamed bun she bought from the convenience store. She told Shintaro that she would love to keep having the bun every day. Suddenly, Shintaro worries that he can't buy 2 of every meal at the convenience store, because the allowance he receives from his parents can't provide for both of them. As for him, he wants them to shop for food ingredients and day-to-day supplies, which she will be needing since she doesn't come with anything. Shintaro took Toa to a shopping mall where she thinks of it as a palace. Shintaro instructed her to stick close to him, but her unsettledness makes her try everything she finds adorable. She finds a cute mug with the print of a cat, almost similar to the cats she separated on Shintaro's balcony when both cats were fighting with each other. Shintaro thinks if she's willing to get the mug, but she lost interest in the mug since there are some other mugs at Shintaro's home. This made Shintaro think she doesn't want it. Suddenly, a little girl sees Toa and tells her mom that there's a princess. Everyone there starts discussing that her dress really looks like that of a princess from a wealthy family. Shintaro immediately goes to get her some clothes. He sees the price tag and thinks that he has been saving up his allowance and extras for some period of time, so he can afford it. Toa asks him if she is making him spend too much. He says there is no problem and tells her to get some casual wear and some pajamas. She asks him what kind of outfit he prefers, but Shintaro says his preference doesn't matter. They are her clothes. Just pick stuff she'd like to wear and that would make him happy. Suddenly, an attendant in the mall comes to them and asks them to check out the new seasonal collection. Toa was able to find herself some good casual and beautiful outfits and is so happy about it. Toa went to the changing room, and the attendant tells him his girlfriend is very pretty. He embarrassingly says she is not his girlfriend. In the changing room, Toa is worried about the generosity and kind heart Shintaro showed towards a total stranger like her, and thinks about what she can do for him in return. She goes ahead to vow to him in public to bring him happiness in his life, making it look like a proposal. On their way back home, Toa asks Shintaro how she looks in the new outfit, to which he says she is looking great, and embarrassingly thinks that she is looking gorgeous. Toa is so happy to hear that. Shintaro advises they get some food and then head home. Back at home, Shintaro gets tired and wonders why the foods are so heavy. Toa just picks up the foods to put the perishables in the fridge. Shintaro says she must be tired as she walked so much, and it was so crowded. However, she says she had lots of fun because he is there with her. While she was offloading the ingredients, she discovered that Shintaro eventually got her the mug she was staring at. She was so happy to see it. Meanwhile, Shintaro thinks that he also had a great time with her. At night, they are sharing the same bed again, and Shintaro embarrassingly tells himself to buy another bed already. We see that when Toa comes to Earth, the lights and beauty of the city amaze her. She sees a train and remembers that she was told about it. She flies close to the train and sees people inside it. One passenger is shocked to see her flying. Toa is amazed by how fast the train is going, and it makes her realize how amazing Earth is. Sitting on top of a building, Toa starts thinking that she has come down to a bright place, but she needs to figure out how she will make contact with humans. She then remembers the book called Good Kid's Guide to Life on Earth, which explains 2 ways to make contact with humans after an angel comes down to Earth. First, she needs to be higher than them, shine really brightly, and introduce herself in an impressive way. She can also spread her wings to show them off proudly. Second, she has to hide her wings and blend in with humans. She can pick one of 2 usual ways to do this. She starts thinking which one would be the better choice for her, if she should have a friendly relationship with humans, or if she should get to know them first. But she realizes that people walking on the road seem very busy. Toa looks tired, so she flies away to find a quiet place to rest. While flying, she is too sleepy and can't find the way back home. Then Toa sees a big mansion and finds a room with an open window. She thinks nobody is using it, so she decides to stay there for one night without bothering anyone. Toa wonders where she's supposed to go as she has no place on Earth to live. But then she decides she'll try again tomorrow morning and gets a feeling she'll meet someone amazing tomorrow. Back to the present, Toa explains to Shintaro how she ended up sleeping on his balcony. Shintaro is relieved because he thought something bad might have happened to her. Toa replies it's good because the room belongs to him. After the shopping trip, they have dinner together. Toa makes dinner for Shintaro, and he thinks he's being spoiled rotten, eating convenience store foods. Toa asks if she should feed him, but Shintaro refuses embarrassingly. They start eating, where Shintaro finds the food delicious, especially the potato dish. Toa seems happy as Shintaro likes the food. Shintaro is surprised that Toa can cook so many dishes. Toa says she learned them from the book called Good Kid's Guide to Life on Earth. Shintaro is amazed after eating the delicious food. As he enjoys the tasty food, he realizes he was used to eating convenience store food and bread every day. But this homemade meal was much better. He then remembers the moment when Toa tells him that she wanted to bring happiness into his life. Shintaro finds Toa to be cute, a great cook, and a wonderful angel. He wonders if it's really okay for him to have such a good life. Toa noticed that Shintaro wasn't eating his food, so she asked him if he didn't like the food. But Shintaro says it's not like that, and explained that he was thinking about how he could do anything for her. Toa appreciated his kindness and told him that he has already done too much by letting her stay in his room. However, she mentioned that there is something she wanted to ask him about after dinner. After dinner, Shintaro explains to Toa how to use the bath. He tells her to close the curtain first to avoid getting the wash basin and other things wet, and to make sure the curtain is inside the tub. After that, she needs to turn the dial on to get hot water. Shintaro says that if she wants to take a bath, she should use the rubber to fill up the tub. Toa thanks him for explaining everything. Toa begins taking a bath inside while Shintaro, who is outside, starts feeling uncomfortable because there's a girl bathing in his home, and it's making him feel strange. Shintaro decides to watch TV or do something else to avoid thinking about this. However, even with the TV on, he can't stop imagining Toa bathing. Shintaro gets frustrated and starts hitting himself on the face. He feels anxious and can't handle the situation of having a girl staying over, bathing, and sleeping in his place. He decides to turn off the TV and tells himself he should focus on studying because he has an English quiz the next day. While Shintaro is studying, he suddenly feels that he needs to use the toilet. So, he goes to the bathroom and opens the door without realizing that Toa is inside. They both scream in surprise. Shintaro quickly apologizes and explains that he didn't mean to do that. He just needed to use the toilet and forgot that she was taking a bath. Toa forgives him and suggests he could still use the toilet while she closes the curtain and waits. Shintaro realizes he doesn't have a humiliation fetish, and says the surprise of seeing Toa took away his urge to use the toilet. After some time, Shintaro is taking a bath and thinks that since he lives alone, he doesn't have to worry about anyone being on the other side of the door. But now he needs to be careful. Suddenly, Toa comes into the bathroom with a towel in her hand and asks Shintaro if she should wash his back. Shintaro gets embarrassed and says he doesn't need that. At night, Shintaro and Toa are sleeping on the same bed. But Shintaro feels worried because they only have one bed, and they're too close in the apartment. Toa falls asleep, but Shintaro can't sleep thinking about this. He tells himself to get an extra bed tomorrow. In the next morning, Shintaro wakes up with dark circles under his eyes. He thinks to use the bathroom quickly and then go back to sleep. But when he opened the bathroom door, he found Toa inside, and they both screamed with surprise. Shintaro immediately closed the door, realizing he had forgotten Toa was in there. However, Toa insisted that she should be the one apologizing for not telling him she was using the bathroom. Shintaro disagrees, saying there is nothing wrong with that, and he is the one at fault. He once again apologizes to her. While brushing his teeth, Shintaro thinks he doesn't want to accidentally walk into the bathroom again. He thinks this might keep happening because they take turns bathing and changing. Shintaro thinks to make some rules to avoid these situations. He thinks about leaving the bathroom door open while not using it. This way, if the door is closed, they would know that someone is using it. Suddenly, Toa came in, wanting to brush her teeth. But Shintaro was already using the toilet, and they both screamed when they saw each other. Toa apologized, but Shintaro felt like he was the one who should apologize. He just wanted to disappear out of embarrassment. Sitting in front of the food table, Shintaro is thinking about how this is the third day of his life with an angel. Toa asked him to eat some food. As he started eating, he found the food to be incredibly delicious. After finishing his meal, he thanked Toa and said it was really great. Shintaro sees it's 8 a.m. on TV, and he realizes he has to go to school. Toa asks him if he is a student. Shintaro replies that didn't he already tell her that he was a first-year high school student. Toa says she will clean up and get ready to leave immediately too. Shintaro tells her she doesn't have to come to school with him because people might be surprised. But Toa insists that she can't bring him happiness if she isn't with him. She wants to go with him as well, but Shintaro refuses. Toa suggests he could skip school for the day. Shintaro says he'd love to, but as a student, he has to study, as it's his duty. Toa understands and says she won't interfere with his duty, and she'll stay at home. Shintaro says he'll leave some money just in case, and appreciates it if she would stay at home. He'll be back by evening and tells her to relax and watch TV. Toa agrees and tells Shintaro to take care. Shintaro says okay and leaves. While going to school, Shintaro felt sorry for Toa, but he can't bring her with him. Apart from that, he was very sleepy and felt sick because he had eaten too much. Suddenly, his friend Shuichi greeted him excitedly by slapping him on the back. Shintaro warned him that he can vomit because of it. Then, Tsutsumi comes and asks Shuichi what he was doing. Shuichi said it was his way of saying good morning. Tsutsumi asked Shintaro if he is alright. Shintaro greets her and says he's alright. However, Tsutsumi noticed that Shintaro looked very unwell. She looks at Shuichi, but he jokingly asked her if it was his fault, and agreed that Shintaro is looking very pale. He then asked Shintaro if he was possessed by a ghost or something. Shintaro explains that he's feeling tired because he hasn't gotten enough sleep. Shuichi asks if he's busy with weekend work, and Shintaro says yes. Tsutsumi suggests Shintaro skip school for the day. However, Shintaro tells her thanks, but he'll be fine. Tsutsumi is worried about Shintaro as he lives alone. Shuichi asks Tsutsumi why she is being so nice to Shintaro. Tsutsumi explains that it's just what friends do. Shuichi suggests that Tsutsumi should be even nicer to him as he is going to school on time. Shintaro says they've known each other forever, and it's like they're a funny married couple. But Tsutsumi didn't like it, and tells Shintaro not to say it again because she doesn't want to hear it. Then Shuichi tells Tsutsumi that her reaction was too much and it hurt, and Shintaro starts laughing. Back in the apartment, Toa was doing cleaning and laundry. She sits on her bed, thinking about Shintaro. She feels happy remembering he enjoyed the food she made. She wishes he'd come back soon. Then she realizes it's lunchtime and wonders what Shintaro will eat, since he said he'd be back by evening. She starts thinking he might be hungry and unhappy. Meanwhile at school, Shuichi shouted that it's lunchtime. Tsutsumi asks Shintaro if he only brought vegetables and juice for lunch. Shintaro agrees, saying he'll get some bread if he feels hungry. Tsutsumi asks if he ever cooks by himself, worrying if he's getting the right diet. Shintaro assures her that he manages somehow. Tsutsumi says that just eating bread wouldn't give him enough nutrition. Shuichi jokes about eating tons of bread for nutrition, but Tsutsumi tells him it doesn't work that way. Shintaro didn't want to tell them about Toa cooking for him, so he mentioned that he is getting staff meals occasionally. Tsutsumi said she has been thinking of making lunch for him too. Shintaro is amazed as she made her lunch herself. She expressed that she is just worried about his diet as a friend. Shuichi asks her to make lunch for him too, but she refused, saying it'd be too much work. Shuichi argued it wouldn't be a big deal, but Tsutsumi said making 3 lunches would be more work. Suddenly, Shintaro notices Toa behind the window. He panics and tries to hide her from his friends. Tsutsumi asks him what was wrong, but he replies, "It's nothing." Then, he secretly tells Toa to go to the roof, and he would meet her there. Toa agrees, and Shintaro rushes off, saying he has some work to do. Shuichi asks if Shintaro has plans to meet with girls, which makes Tsutsumi angry. Meanwhile, some students who were nearby saw Toa flying, and one of them thought it was just stress making him see such things, because he stayed up studying all night. Shintaro runs up the stairs to the roof as fast as he can. He tells Toa that he has told her not to come to school, and her wings were totally visible. He becomes worried about what would happen if people found out angels exist. This would be all over the news. Toa apologizes, thinking she has caused trouble for him. She says she was worried if he might get hungry and brought him lunch. Toa says she should leave now, but Shintaro stops her and apologizes for shouting at her when she brought him lunch. He suggests they should eat together. As they start eating, Shintaro compliments Toa's cooking, saying it always tastes good. Toa thanks him for praising her cooking skills. Shintaro looks at the food and recognizes it as the dish he loved last night. He asks Toa if she made it for him again. Toa said she remembered because his words made her happy, and she wants to learn more about what he likes. Shintaro is happy to hear that. Toa says she'll cook lots of food for him, but Shintaro said not too much. Then he considers himself really lucky to have Toa by his side. In the classroom, the teacher asked if anyone could help him carry the materials for the next period. Tsutsumi agrees to help. While carrying things, she thought about where Shintaro might be. She has offered to make lunch for him, but didn't get a response. Tsutsumi remembered when she was a kid. She got lost in another town, and then Shintaro helped her. He was her first crush, but she hasn't seen him in 9 years and has even forgotten his name. However, on result day, students check their grades. Shuichi excitedly says he got accepted. Tsutsumi thinks that she has to go to school with Shuichi for 3 more years. Shuichi asks another boy if he passed and suggests they become friends. The boy's name card falls down. Tsutsumi wonders what's wrong with Shuichi. While picking up the paper, she finds Shintaro's name on it, feeling like fate has brought them back together. Back in the present, Tsutsumi admits she hasn't brought up what happened 9 years ago because she's afraid of being called a stalker. Suddenly, she's surprised to see Shintaro with Toa and gets shocked. Meanwhile, Shintaro tells Toa to go straight home and not talk to any strangers. Toa asks him to come home soon. Tsutsumi realizes Shintaro was really meeting up with a girl. Then, she's totally shocked when Toa takes out her wings and flies away. Shintaro comes back from school in the evening, and Toa welcomes him. Shintaro apologizes to her for what happened at school and thanks her for bringing lunch. But Toa says it isn't a big deal, and she apologizes for flying so much. Shintaro agrees, as that is shocking. He notices the laundry is already done and asks if she did it. Toa agrees, but Shintaro wonders how, since he hasn't shown her how to use the washing machine. Toa explains she learned it from the book called The Good Kid's Guide to Life on Earth. Shintaro is amazed to see that the book covers laundry too. Then, he is shocked to find out Toa has washed his underwear. He realizes that until then only his family has washed his underwear, and he hadn't expected Toa to do it. Shintaro thanks Toa for washing his underwear, but he's trying hard not to blush because it would feel awkward. He sees how neatly the underwear is folded, but notices a bear on it. Toa says that she noticed a hole in his underwear and sewed a cute bear on it. Shintaro realizes Toa does a lot for him already and decides to wash his own underwear from now on. Toa asks if he doesn't like the bear and suggests stitching a bunny instead, but Shintaro says that he'll just handle everything related to his underwear. Since then, Shintaro makes sure to wash his underwear every day. Meanwhile, Tsutsumi is taking a bath and starts thinking about the girl she saw standing with Shintaro, who seemed to be flying. She really wants to ask Shintaro about her, but she can't bring herself to do it directly. Tsutsumi thinks she might be imagining things because people can't really fly. Maybe seeing Shintaro with the girl made her feel shocked. She also never got confirmation if she could make lunch for him. Tsutsumi's mom notices that she has been talking to herself for a while in the bath and asks if she is okay. Tsutsumi says she is fine and decides to ask Shintaro about the girl and if she could make lunch for him tomorrow. The next day at Shintaro's apartment, while Shintaro leaves for school, Toa stops him and asks if he doesn't want lunch. He says he'd love to, but he's worried about explaining it at school. Toa wonders if he started hating her because he slept on the floor instead of the bed last night. Shintaro says they can't keep sharing the same bed. Toa tearfully says she doesn't want him to come to school either. Shintaro immediately agrees to take the lunch. She asks him to come home soon for dinner. Shintaro apologizes, saying he has work and won't be back until after 9. Toa suggests going with him, but Shintaro denies. He expresses to her that he feels lucky to have her making lunch and dinner for him at home. Toa becomes happy to see him smile, and Shintaro leaves. While he is on his way to school, he feels kinda bad for avoiding talking to Toa. Toa waves to him from the balcony. Seeing her, Shintaro feels lucky to have her. At school, Shuichi invites Shintaro to have lunch together. When Shuichi and Tsutsumi find out that Shintaro already has lunch in his hand, they are surprised. Shintaro makes up a story and says he saved an old lady on the street, and the old lady rewarded him with the lunchbox. When he opens his lunchbox, he finds a heart-shaped omelet. He starts eating quickly to make sure that Tsutsumi and Shuichi wouldn't notice. Tsutsumi thinks a girl must have made it for him. Since his mom is out of town, Shuichi asks Tsutsumi if he can eat the omelet if she doesn't want it, but she gets really angry. While walking on the road, Shintaro feels really tired. He wonders why he always makes up weak excuses and gets worried about what excuse he'll use tomorrow. He starts to feel like a weak loser. He thinks it is fine until anyone finds out Toa is an angel, but he realizes that the main problem is he doesn't want anyone to know that he lives with a girl. Suddenly, a fortune teller approaches Shintaro and tells him that he's got a cloud of girl trouble hanging over his head. Shintaro is surprised and asks what she means. She explains she's just a friendly neighborhood fortune teller and warns him that he has entered a phase of intense girl trouble. Shintaro asks what he's supposed to do about it. She says it can be fixed with some powerful charms and offers to sell him 3 charms for 30,000 yen, but Shintaro declines and runs away, thinking it's a scam. While running, he wonders if she may be right about the girl trouble. However, he realizes Toa isn't a problem for him at all. Shintaro arrives at work, where his boss asks him how he is feeling now. He says he is good now, and apologizes for leaving early on Saturday. His boss tells him not to worry about it as he is happy to see him feeling better. Shintaro confirms that he is fine now and goes into the changing room. Then his boss informs him that the girl who started working 2 weeks weeks ago would work with him on shifts, and reminds Shintaro to behave well toward her, to which Shintaro agrees. Shintaro gets curious about her and decides to say hi later. When he opens the changing room door, he finds a girl changing. The girl gets mad and slaps him. Shintaro's coworker notices the slap mark on Shintaro's face and asks him what happened, but Shintaro doesn't say anything. Then the girl comes and gives Shintaro a cold cloth. Shintaro wonders if she meant for him to use it on his face. He apologizes, saying he didn't know anyone was in there. She replies it is okay as it's her fault for not locking the door. Shintaro introduces himself and says, "Nice to meet you." She introduces herself as Izumi Noel. Shintaro finds the name unusual. He jokes and asks if she was born on Christmas. She responds that she was indeed born on Christmas and asks if that's a problem. Then Noel says she doesn't get bothered by what he said and asks him to forget about what happened. She says never to speak of it again and leaves. Shintaro notices she doesn't let him say anything, but he finds it good because he's worried she might complain about him. He feels relieved, thinking he can relax now. While serving, Shintaro still thinks about her wearing the dress he saw her in the changing room and tells himself to stop thinking about it since she said it doesn't bother her. He worries that Toa might call him mean and starts feeling bad for Toa. He remembers that he forgot about how he'll make excuses about Toa's lunches at school. Suddenly, their boss tells Shintaro and Noel that they can go home now and mentions there are new trial desserts in the break room fridge, which they can try and let him know what they think about later. They both thank him. Noel tells Shintaro that she can leave if he doesn't want to eat with her, but Shintaro refuses. She praises Shintaro, saying he does his job perfectly. Shintaro thanks her for the compliment. Then, she finds the parfaits in the fridge, and upon seeing them, Shintaro says the cherry parfaits look delicious. Shintaro saw Noel getting embarrassed by hearing the word cherry and asked if something is bothering her. She refuses and tells him to forget about it. Shintaro agrees and says he doesn't remember anything either, but he realizes it's not okay for a girl if she is being seen changing. He feels bad for being so insensitive. He informs her that the room is too cold and asks where the remote is. He sees her standing still and asks if she's okay because she's shaking. Shintaro tries to touch her, but she asks him not to touch her and tells him that she's a Yuki-ana, a kind of snow spirit. Outside, a kid complains that the ice cream is too hard, and someone else asks to turn up the temperature. Inside, Shintaro thinks angels are real, so Yuki-ana would be real as well. Noel realizes something and says she's just joking and reminds him that the cooling system is broken. Shintaro notices that the more panicked Noel gets, the stronger the snowstorm gets. Realizing it, he asks her to calm down and says he's alright with supernatural things. Another waitress wonders what's wrong with the cooling system, but their boss says he doesn't find any issues. Shintaro thinks they should leave the cafe, and then they leave from there. After reaching a distance, Shintaro asks if they're safe now, and Noel thinks they probably are. He finds that Noel is holding parfaits, and she says she wasn't thinking clearly and just grabbed them, and they start laughing together. Meanwhile, at the apartment, Toa is playing games and having fun. She finds human world games to be super fun, but when she watches the clock, she thinks that Shintaro is late, as he said he would be back after 9. Elsewhere, Tsutsumi is trying to study, but she is getting distracted. She decides to take a break and goes to the convenience store to get some ice cream. Her mom reminds her to be careful. Meanwhile, Shintaro and Noel eat the parfait and find it tasty. Shintaro then realizes they go to the same school, which is surprising to him. Noel asks if he truly believed her story about being a Yuki-ana, and Shintaro agrees, saying it's just because she told him so. In his thoughts, Shintaro admits he has already seen angels and thought there might be devils too, but he wasn't expecting a Yuki-ana. Noel is worried and asks Shintaro to keep what she's about to say a secret. She reveals that her family has a long history of having Yuki-ana, a type of mythical snow woman, in their family. She's not sure if this is genetic and says that both her mother and grandmother were Yuki-ana. Noel tells him that when they feel strong emotions like anger, sadness, or embarrassment, they create snowstorms. Noel says that she struggles to control her emotions and ends up causing blizzards unintentionally, while her sister and the rest of her family can manage. She finds it hard to control herself and ends up pushing people away, trying not to make friends. Noel says she was always alone and starts skipping school, but when she entered high school, she realized that she needed to change. She tells Shintaro that when she's at home, all she does is read manga or watch anime. Then she started working as a waitress to start talking with people, but it all gets messed up because he saw her changing. Shintaro tells her to stay calm because it's his fault for walking into the changing room, but Noel denies it, saying it's her fault for letting it bother her. She gets emotional and wonders why she always does that. Shintaro comforts her and says she is doing well as she greets customers with a smile and tells her that even if people want to change, most of them don't actually do anything about it. Shintaro says he finds her amazing, and she is not a lost cause. Shintaro sees Noel crying. He says sorry if he said something insensitive again. Noel reassures him that it's not his fault. She explains that it's the first time she's talked to anyone outside her family about being a Yuki-onna, and says that his comforting words mean a lot to her. Noel thanks him, and then asks if they can be friends, because she's never really had any friends before, and worries she might not be good at it. Shintaro agrees to be her friend. Noel then asks if he's sure because she's a Yuki-onna. Shintaro assures her it's not a problem and they're friends now. Noel then asks him to call her by her name, and if she can call him by his name, to which Shintaro agrees. Noel becomes happy as she finally found a friend. Shintaro asks her if Yuki-onna would melt and disappear if they were seen by others. Noel smiles and refuses, saying she will not disappear. Suddenly, they see a white feather and see Toa flying above them. Toa is happy to see Shintaro and says it's good as she found him. Shintaro responds that there is nothing good about this. Suddenly, Tsutsumi comes there and gets shocked to see Toa flying. Now, after all things messed up, Shintaro thinks that apart from living alone, he was just a regular 16-year-old until last weekend. But everything changed last weekend. Now, there's nothing that seems normal to him anymore. Shintaro wonders why it's happening to him. Then Toa, Noel, and Tsutsumi start asking him lots of things. Tsutsumi mentions seeing Toa flying at school, but thought she was imagining it. Toa tells Shintaro he was late coming home, so she got worried, and she thinks to fly because it's nighttime. Also, Toa asks if Shintaro is okay with peppers in the omelet rice for dinner. Tsutsumi keeps asking if Toa's wings are real. Shintaro gets frustrated and says stop. He can't handle all this at once. Then he asks Tsutsumi why she's there. Tsutsumi says she's just passing by, but she feels awkward because she's in sweats and didn't expect to meet Shintaro like this. After this, Shintaro tries to act like everything's normal and suggests they all pretend they didn't see anything and just go home. But Tsutsumi disagrees. Shintaro realizes they won't forget what they saw and starts thinking about what to do, because he can't just talk his way out of it. He wonders how to explain it because he knows they won't believe that Toa is an angel. Meanwhile, Noel thinks Toa is really cute and nice, and Shintaro notices that Noel is very open-minded. Then he remembers that Noel is a Yuki-onna. Tsutsumi asks Toa if she's really an angel, and Toa confirms it, saying she's an angel who came to Earth to learn about humans. Noel finds this fascinating and compliments Toa's energetic nature, as this is something she didn't expect from angels. Tsutsumi then confirms with Shintaro if Toa randomly appeared at his place, and has been living with him ever since. Shintaro agrees and admits that he kept Toa's presence a secret to avoid chaos. Tsutsumi understands the situation and promises not to tell anyone since she doubts anyone would believe in this, except for those who have seen Toa flying. She asks Toa why she went to Shintaro's apartment. Toa replies that she ended up sleeping on his balcony for a night to rest. Tsutsumi then tells Shintaro that he's too kind. Shintaro agrees and says Toa has nowhere else to go. Tsutsumi thinks about loving Shintaro's kind nature, but it also bothers her. Then she asks Shintaro if the lunch was made by Toa, and he agrees. Tsutsumi thought that Shintaro has lied and said that it's from an old lady. She also wonders why Shintaro is surrounded by girls. Then Noel wishes that she could live with an angel too. In the meantime, Tsutsumi asks Noel what she is doing with Shintaro so late. Shintaro then asks Tsutsumi if she knows Noel. She agrees and says that she has seen Noel in the halls, and everyone calls her the Ice Queen because she never talks to anyone. While listening to this, Shintaro notices that Noel is becoming nervous, and to make things light, he says they both work at the same cafe, and were just coming from there. Tsutsumi realizes it's a good time to ask Shintaro if she can make lunch for him. Then Noel asks Shintaro if Tsutsumi and Toa are his friends, and Shintaro agrees. Noel tells Shintaro to call her Noel. Tsutsumi wonders why Shintaro calls Noel and Toa by their first names. Then Toa apologizes to Shintaro for coming out there, and Shintaro reassures her it's okay, and apologizes for being late coming home. Hearing Shintaro calling Toa and Noel by their first names, Tsutsumi wonders why she's the only one not on a first name basis with him. Shintaro is worried at first, but now things seem okay, so he wants to go home. But suddenly, Noel stands up and says she's a Yuki-onna. Shintaro wonders why she said that. Then everyone is shocked to see her summon a snowstorm. Noel explains that when she gets too emotional, she can create a snowstorm. She mentions how embarrassing it is when Shintaro accidentally saw her changing, which caused the snowstorm. Shintaro tells her to stop being misleading and asks Toa not to give him a certain look. Then he asks Noel if she could stop making the blizzard for a moment. Tsutsumi is wondering if she truly is a Yuki-onna. Shintaro asks Noel why she revealed that, as he thought being a Yuki-onna was supposed to be a secret. Noel explains that since Toa revealed she's an angel and shared her secret with them, it wouldn't be fair for everyone to keep hers to herself. Noel reminds Shintaro that he promised her that he wouldn't tell anyone about her secret. Since Toa and Tsutsumi are Shintaro's friends, they are also her friends, so she trusts them. Then Tsutsumi steps forward to say something, but Shintaro wonders if she's a supernatural being too. Tsutsumi reveals that she used to wet her bed until 5th grade and doesn't want to be the only one with a secret. Shintaro tells her they appreciate her thoughtfulness, but she doesn't have to share these things. Toa thanks Noel and Tsutsumi for being kind, and Tsutsumi asks Toa to call her by her first name. Noel asks Toa if she could change the size of her wings. Toa agrees and explains that her wings show her power to fly. Tsutsumi realizes that's why the wings grow over her clothes. Then Noel asks if she could touch Toa's wings, and Toa agrees. Back at home, Shintaro feels really tired, and Toa tells him she'll make dinner right away. While she's cooking, Toa asks Shintaro if he's upset with her, because his friends found out that she's an angel after she flew in front of them without thinking. Shintaro says he is not mad at her, and asks her not to do risky things like that, because it makes him worry. Toa agrees and says that Noel and Tsutsumi were both really great, and she thinks Shintaro's kindness attracted them to him. Shintaro gets embarrassed and says he's not sure about that. Shintaro sees some officers come to his apartment to catch a Yuki-onna and an angel, and they start searching the place if he might have vampires in Kappa 2. Then they find Toa and take her away, but then Toa wakes him up, and he realizes he is just dreaming. In the school hallway, he remembers what a terrible dream it was. Tsutsumi comes to greet Shintaro, but Shintaro notices that she has more dark circles under her eyes than he does. Shintaro asks if something's wrong, and Tsutsumi says it's nothing. While they walk, Tsutsumi thinks she's gotten used to the idea of angels and Yuki-onna, but when she realized that Shintaro is living with a girl, it kept her up all night, but she can't say that. She also notices that Shintaro seems close with Noel. Then Tsutsumi thinks she doesn't match up to Toa and Noel because they're so pretty. Then she asks Shintaro if he's dating Toa or Noel. Shintaro gets shocked and says, "Of course not." He explains that he just got to know Noel, and the same goes for Toa. Tsutsumi becomes happy hearing this. Suichi comes over and asks, "Who's Toa?" to hide the truth. Tsutsumi says Toa is a distant relative of Shintaro, and she's the one who makes his lunches, and she even made yesterday's lunch. Suichi tells Shintaro he's lucky and suggests he should ask Toa to make his lunches too. Tsutsumi quickly refuses, saying it's not going to happen. Shintaro thanks Tsutsumi for covering for him. He feels relieved to have someone to share his secret with. Tsutsumi feels happy that they have their own little secret together. After a while, Shintaro notices Noel. He sees two boys asking her to go to karaoke, but when she notices Shintaro, she rushes over and says she's been waiting for him. Noel tells him they're friends, and suggests they walk home together because that's what friends do. They will grab a snack together and chat while walking. Noel further asks Shintaro how they should do the shared diary thing and offers to buy it for them. She thinks they should pick something they both like. Shintaro tells her he can't because he has to work today, and asks if she doesn't have a shift. Noel confirms she does. Shintaro suggests they walk to work together, but Noel declines, as it's her first time leaving school with a friend, and she wants it to be memorable. She suggests they save it for a day when neither of them has work, and Shintaro agrees. Seeing Noel act strangely, Shintaro wonders if this is what she meant by being terrible at friending. In the apartment, Toa is wondering what job Shintaro has. While she's thinking about it, she sees a cat and asks the cat if it knows where Shintaro works. Meanwhile, at the cafe, Shintaro is asked to refill the glasses at the drink fountain. Then Noel shows up and says hello to him. Shintaro is surprised because just yesterday she slapped him, but now she's being nice. Their boss sees them talking and asks Shintaro if they're dating, but Shintaro disagrees. His boss mentions that it's okay for staff to date, so he doesn't need to hide this if they are dating. But Shintaro insists they're not dating. Then the boss says that when he asked Noel about her schedule for next month, she wanted to work on the same days as Shintaro. This surprises Shintaro, and he says they're just friends. Shintaro's colleague asks him if he and Noel were really friends. She wants to be Noel's friend and asked about her hobbies, but Noel told her not to talk to her. Noel also warned her that if she got too close, something bad might happen to her. Shintaro wonders why Noel acted like a lonely person around strangers. Then his boss apologized for the question and asked Shintaro if he can help on the floor, as they were probably going to be busy tonight. Shintaro agrees. When Shintaro went to take orders, he was surprised to see Toa and Tsutsumi together and asked why they were there. Toa explains that she asked a cat for his work address and followed it to his workplace, but lost it halfway, and luckily Tsutsumi happened to pass by. Then Tsutsumi tells him that she suddenly craved a parfait and didn't know Shintaro would be there, but in her mind, she was curious about his relationship with Noel, so she intentionally found his workplace. Then Shintaro asks for their order, but then an alarm rang, indicating he had to reach there. Tsutsumi reassured him to go while she stayed with Toa. Shintaro thanked her and left. Seeing Shintaro in his work clothes, Tsutsumi thinks he is looking too good. But then an old lady needed help, and Toa offered to assist her. Tsutsumi told Toa to leave it to the staff because helping customers isn't Toa's job. Later, Tsutsumi noticed Noel at work, and thinks that even though Noel and Shintaro might work on the same shift, they may not get enough time to talk as they have much work. Then Noel hurried to tell Shintaro that the angel was there, but Shintaro says he already knew. Seeing this, her boss calls her and praises her energy, but reminds her to stay focused at work. After that, Noel's mood changed, and she told Shintaro she couldn't be his friend at work, because she wasn't good at working and being friends at the same time. Shintaro says he understood, but Noel got mad and said they are strangers now. Shintaro wondered why Noel always thinks in extremes. After drinking cola, Toa tells Tsutsumi that mixing melon soda with cola tastes really good. Then Toa asks what they should try next, but Tsutsumi says she feels too full already and suggests ordering food instead. Toa sees cheese inside the Hamburg steak on the menu and gets excited because she's heard of Hamburg steak but never with cheese, and says it must be delicious even though she has not tried it, to which Tsutsumi agrees. Then Toa mentions that it's her first time at a restaurant on Earth and she's learning a lot of things. Tsutsumi asks if she wants to order the Hamburg steak, but Toa declines, saying she had already prepared dinner at home. Tsutsumi thinks that she is a pretty girl and a great cook. Even though Shintaro said they weren't dating, it seems like they could be. Toa asks Tsutsumi what Shintaro's job is. Tsutsumi replies he works here as staff. Toa then asks if gig means job. Tsutsumi asks what she thought it meant. Toa explained that in the Good Kid's Guide to Life on Earth book, she read, gig meant side gig, but she didn't know what side gig meant. She also asks why Shintaro works here as he's a student. Tsutsumi explains that many students work part-time because their allowances aren't enough to cover their expenses. Then Tsutsumi asks Toa if she can go to the restroom because she drank too much. While Shintaro is serving food to customers, he gets worried about Toa and Tsutsumi, but he is amazed to see that Toa has started attending to customers. Shintaro quickly takes her away, and he asks her what she is doing. Toa replies that she thinks she can help him out to get his job done earlier, so that he can come home sooner. Shintaro tells her that he gets paid hourly, so he can't finish early, but Toa doesn't understand, so Shintaro says he will explain later. He tells her for now she doesn't need to work, as it won't change when he finishes. Toa asks Shintaro if he feels pressured to work more because she lives with him. She wonders if he feels he has to do extra jobs because of her. Shintaro replies that it's not because of her. He was already working before she moved in. He explains that his parents send him money, but he wanted to experience working while in high school. Toa points out that while Shintaro works, she doesn't do anything at home. Shintaro doesn't understand what she meant, and says his life has gotten much better since she arrived, as he used to eat mostly from convenience stores or have staff meals, but now he is enjoying a good meal, a clean home, and fresh clothes because of her. Toa wishes him luck at work and says she will have dinner ready when he gets back, and Shintaro thanks her. Shintaro's boss is surprised to see what seems like a love triangle, but Noel then approached him to arrange her shifts for next month, noting the days Shintaro won't be working at that time, and the boss assumes Shintaro has already been dumped. In the apartment, Shintaro notices that many things have changed since Toa started living with him. One noticeable change is that he has switched from ready-to-heat rice packs to using a rice cooker. Shintaro finds it strange that Toa has placed the rice cooker next to the TV, instead of in the kitchen. Toa replies that there isn't enough space in the kitchen and all the power outlets are also in use. Shintaro agrees, mentioning that this is why he has never used a rice cooker before. Then Toa says it's fine to have it there, because it makes serving rice easier. Shintaro thinks that it's okay as long as Toa doesn't find it weird. Shintaro tells Toa that he knows it's late, but he's curious about what angels eat in heaven. Toa tells him that there's a lot of different food, which they mainly get from the trees in their gardens. Shintaro wonders if it's mostly fruits and nuts, but Toa says no, and tells him that they have hot food that grows on the trees. Shintaro finds this familiar and thinks heaven has great food. Toa also says that she cooks as a hobby in heaven as well. Later, when Shintaro's bowl is empty, Toa asks if he wants more rice. Shintaro declines, saying he'll get it himself since the cooker is nearby. He agrees with Toa that it's a perfect spot for the cooker. Elsewhere, Tsutsumi has been thinking about Shintaro when he asks her for advice about Toa. She remembers that Shintaro mentioned that he wanted to take Toa somewhere, and he also mentioned that Toa doesn't have a smart card to use on buses or trains. So Shintaro asks Tsutsumi if he should buy a smart card for Toa. Tsutsumi tells him that it's a good idea but suggests starting with a paper ticket, so Toa can learn how the system works. Shintaro thinks it's a great idea and thanks Tsutsumi for her suggestion. Tsutsumi wonders if Shintaro will actually buy Toa a smart card. She imagines getting a smart card from Shintaro and making it a special item to pass down in her family for generations. Tsutsumi remembers when she asked him if he lives alone, and he agrees because his parents moved abroad for work. Then she asks him why they didn't take him with them, and Shintaro explains that he only speaks Japanese and wanted to go to high school in Japan, so he decided not to go with them. Tsutsumi asks if he lives in a dorm or boarding house, but Shintaro says he lives in an apartment because his aunt has one available. Shuichi thinks it's cool, but then Shintaro explains that his parents wanted him to live with relatives, but somehow he managed to convince them to let him leave alone and go to this school. Tsutsumi asks why he chose this school. Shintaro says it's close to his aunt's apartment and also matches his academic level. Tsutsumi is grateful to Shintaro's aunt for everything because it's amazing that they got to meet again, and they are now classmates. Then Shuichi stands up and tells Shintaro that he should keep this a secret, because some weird people might use his place as a hangout spot, and Tsutsumi agrees with Shuichi. Shintaro says he thought telling both of them would be fine. Shuichi and Tsutsumi feel embarrassed, and Shuichi tells him he's not wrong. In her mind, Tsutsumi thinks she loves him because of this. Shintaro comforts them and says not to worry as it's normal. Tsutsumi lost in thought again and remembered when she met Toa. She feels like she wants to help her, but sometimes she feels sad when Shintaro talks about her and Noel. She regrets not telling Shintaro how she feels before Toa came into his life. Tsutsumi wonders why she is so ordinary compared to Toa and Noel, and she feels like she doesn't deserve Shintaro's attention as she's just a normal girl. Her mom notices her worrying and asks what's wrong. Tsutsumi jokes if she's secretly descended from some mythical creature. Her mom tells her that being normal also needs effort, but Tsutsumi brushes off her mom and tries to boost her confidence. In her thoughts, Tsutsumi wants to get closer to Shintaro and wishes he would like her back. Then her brother interrupts, asking for snacks. Their mom reminds him of no snacks before bed, but then remembers a coupon she won and gives it to Tsutsumi. Her brother complains it's not fair, but Tsutsumi is happy and imagines going to eat with Shintaro. She thanks her mom and tells her she loves her. The next day at school, Shuichi feels proud of himself for making it on time again. Tsutsumi secretly wishes to go eat with Shintaro alone, but feels too nervous to ask. She tries to include Shuichi in the plan to ease her nerves, but she knows deep down that she really wants to ask Shintaro out. As they prepare to head home, Tsutsumi regrets not asking Shintaro and feels like a coward. But then Shuichi finds a coupon in Tsutsumi's hand, which is for Mrs. D's and expires that day. He suggests they go together and asks Shintaro if he's working, to which Shintaro replies that he isn't. They all decide to go to Mrs. D's. Shuichi is super excited to use the coupon, but then he finds out that he and the other first years have to clean balls today instead, and he forgot he had a club meeting. Listening to this, Tsutsumi thinks that this plan also failed. Shintaro tells Tsutsumi she is so lucky, and advises her to think of him while eating. Tsutsumi gets excited because she and Shintaro will go alone. Shintaro feels bad enjoying the coupon alone and asks Tsutsumi if she minds. Tsutsumi is totally okay with it, and even feels happier to call Shuichi a childhood friend. She thanks Shuichi for the invite, but Shuichi gets confused about why she is thanking him. As they walk, Shintaro apologizes and asks Tsutsumi if they should stop by the library for a quick visit. Tsutsumi agrees, thinking it is unusual for her and Shintaro to hang out without Shuichi. At the library, Tsutsumi asks if Shintaro comes here to borrow something. He replies that he is interested in angels and other mythical creatures, but he can't find books related to this online. Then Shintaro says that angels and Yuki Onna were real, so he thinks devils and Kappa might also be real too. Tsutsumi wonders if he plans to encounter them, but Shintaro says no. He's just curious because he realizes that he doesn't know much about the occult. Tsutsumi wonders if Shintaro just set a flag. Then Shintaro tells her that books are awesome because they teach them new words and ideas. Tsutsumi thinks she likes Shintaro because of these things. Shintaro says that he is happy they come here together. Tsutsumi asks if he means at the library. Then she suggests a book to him. Shintaro thanks her, saying she's always helpful. Tsutsumi tells him that maybe it's because she takes care of her little brother. Shintaro tells her that she's bold and honorable, but Tsutsumi thinks that's not the best compliment for a girl. Shintaro mentions the time at the park when Tsutsumi revealed her secret to help others feel better. Tsutsumi tells him not to bring it up, as it's not something she's proud of, and Shintaro agrees to forget about it. After reading books for a while, Shintaro says he is too sleepy for all these big words, and Tsutsumi finds it cute. Then, while looking at the book, Tsutsumi thinks Kappa are creepy and thought Kappa were just yokai that love cucumbers. Then she wonders about what a shirikadama is. She asks Shintaro about these shirikadama, but he's already sleeping. She remembers he stayed up late last night. Looking at him, Tsutsumi thinks he has both cool and cute sides. Then she admits her real secret. She loves Shintaro. They both fall asleep, and when they wake up, it's raining outside. Shintaro apologizes because they're stuck here because he fell asleep. Tsutsumi replies it's also her fault as she took a nap too. Shintaro says it's good they have umbrellas, but it'll be late to visit Mrs. D's if they wait for the rain to stop. He asks if she should take out the donuts and eat them at home. Tsutsumi asks why. Shintaro replies that he means if she doesn't want to be too full for dinner. Tsutsumi leaves, saying everything's okay and she'd definitely eat those donuts with him. Shintaro is surprised to know that she likes donuts so much, so he decides to join her. While they're walking, Tsutsumi realizes that it isn't the right time for donuts. Suddenly, a kid falls, and Tsutsumi asks the kid if he is okay. She notices the kid's umbrella is broken. The kid says he needs to go home to get a new umbrella, but then he will be late for cram school. Tsutsumi gives her umbrella to the little kid, and the kid leaves, saying thanks to her. However, now Tsutsumi and Shintaro ended up sharing an umbrella. Realizing it, she says sorry to Shintaro for giving hers away. Shintaro says there's no need for that and tells her that she is amazing. But Tsutsumi wonders if he meant she is amazingly stupid. Shintaro asks what they should do now. Should they buy a new umbrella or share his? Then Tsutsumi asks if it's okay to share his umbrella, saying that they're almost at Mrs. D's. She wonders why she can ask that, but not be able to invite him for donuts. Eventually, she suggests buying an umbrella, but Shintaro insists on going straight to Mrs. D's. Tsutsumi feels lucky to be so normal and enjoys their time chatting and eating donuts together. The next day at school, Shintaro and Noel both don't have any work, so they can leave together like they plan. Shintaro is a bit worried because he thinks they won't have any topic to talk about. They leave school together, and Noel starts talking about an anime she likes, saying it's about someone being reborn in another world, and the main character is really cute and capable. She shows Shintaro the anime and asks if he knows about it. Shintaro says he checked out the manga's free trial. Noel tells him the anime is based on the manga and suggests he should watch it since it's available on many streaming sites. And also she asks him to wait if he can, as there's going to be a rerun soon. Then Noel remembers they forgot to buy diaries for their shared diary project. She asks Shintaro where they should buy them. Because friends are supposed to do the shared diary thing, Noel asks Shintaro about what kind of notebook would be good. But Shintaro stops her because he needs to tell her something. Noel is surprised because she didn't know that shared diaries weren't real. Shintaro tells her that shared diaries aren't legendary dragons, and he thinks elementary school girls still exchange diaries. Noel asks him if shared diaries are real, and Shintaro tells her that they are not entirely fictional. Later, 3 students sitting together notice Noel and wonder if she is from class 3, because they haven't heard her talk before. As they walk, Noel asks Shintaro if grabbing a bite on the way home is also a fictional event. Shintaro thinks it's pretty normal. Then Noel rushes to get 2 ice creams and offers one to Shintaro. Shintaro is surprised and asks if he could have it, mentioning that he hasn't had one in a long time. After eating it, Noel realizes she can't handle it because her tongue feels really cold. Seeing Shintaro's surprised expression, Noel asks if he just thought of her as a Yuki-onna. How could she feel cold? Shintaro apologizes and says he kinda did, and then they both start laughing. After finishing the ice cream, Shintaro shows Noel where to throw away the trash. While walking, Noel says she is happy they had that ice cream, and mentions she has thought about getting pork buns or little nuggies, but decides going halfsies is more of a friend thing to do. She says that she spent so much time last night thinking about what to do after school today. Shintaro is surprised to listen to that, as she started planning it from last night. Noel explains that it was a special day because it was her first time leaving school with a friend, and she was so excited, which made it hard for her to sleep. She mentions that she has been sleep-deprived this week. Shintaro asks if it's true, and Noel confirms it, saying the night she told him about being a Yuki-onna, her heart was racing even after she got home, as she had never opened up like that before. Shintaro says he understands, and mentions he has not been himself that night either. Then Shintaro tells Noel about a strange dream he had, and she asks him what it was about. He describes seeing a kappa in his dream, which makes Noel laugh because she was relieved that it was not a dream. Noel thanks Shintaro for everything he does. On their way home, Shintaro says he has to turn left at a certain point, and Noel agrees. But then Noel reminds Shintaro that next time, it would be his turn to buy ice cream. Now Noel has reached home and starts to blush as she remembers Shintaro saying, "See you." Back in the apartment, when Shintaro opens the door, he sees Toa and a little girl changing clothes. But then he realizes there's another angel in his apartment. Then the little one gets mad and slaps him. Then she tells him she is right to be worried about Toa, and she will take her back to heaven right at that moment. Hearing that, Shintaro is shocked. In the same morning, Toa is feeling really happy and singing about making Shintaro's favorite stewed veggies for dinner. Suddenly, she hears a noise and goes to check it. She is amazed to see Shiu on the balcony. Shiu gets excited to see Toa, but Toa wonders why she's there. Then Shiu explains that she made a mistake while landing and got all dirty. Toa asks if she's okay and then takes her to the bathroom for a bath. Back to the present. Toa tells that's what happened. Shintaro understands it, and then Toa introduces Shiu to him. Shiu introduces herself and says she is an angel. Shintaro tells her it's nice to meet her, but Shiu interrupts and says goodbye. She then urges Toa to leave through the window, but Shintaro warns them not to fly from the balcony because it could cause chaos if anyone sees them. However, Shiu insists they should hurry home. Toa tries to calm her down and offers her some milk. After Shiu finished drinking milk, Toa asked if she felt calmer and if she liked the milk. Shiu replies yes, she likes it. Shintaro then wonders if there are angels as tiny as Shiu, and thinks it also makes sense since Cupid's basically a baby. Then Toa asks Shiu why she suddenly came there and reminded her that they are not allowed to come to Earth. Shiu replies that she got permission from God, and she was also worried about Toa since they hadn't contacted for a while. However, Toa was surprised that Shiu found her so quickly. Shiu replies that it's obvious she sensed her aura, because she's her junior. Shiu then tells that she didn't expect Toa to be living in such a dump place, but Toa defended the place and tells her that it is Shintaro's home. When Shiu heard Shintaro's name, she asked who he is, and if he was a man. Toa confirmed he is, but Shiu got shocked and informed Toa that she couldn't live in a man's home, because men are just perverted. Then Toa assured her and said that Shintaro is a nice person and mentioned she also makes dinner for him. Shiu got shocked that Toa cooked for a man and asked if she did his laundry too. To which Toa replies yes, Shiu has been wondering who the human is sitting next to them this whole time. Then Toa tells her that he is Shintaro. Shiu gets angry at Shintaro and calls him a punk, but Toa asks her not to say that. Shintaro apologizes for not introducing himself earlier and asks what Shiu thought he was. Shiu admits she thinks he's a pervert. Shintaro defends himself, saying it isn't his fault. Shiu gets really mad again and asks Shintaro if Toa is being forced to cook and clean in such a terrible place. She thinks it's awful and also wrong, but then Toa steps in and tells her that she's doing it because she wants to, and asks Shiu who taught her to talk like that, and calls her a bad girl. Toa tries to calm Shiu down by offering her milk again, but Shintaro doesn't think that's a good idea. Shintaro is surprised when Shiu drinks the milk because he didn't know she liked it. After drinking the milk, Shiu tells Toa it's time to go home, but Toa says she can't because God sent her to Earth to learn more about humans. However, Shiu doesn't like the idea of Toa staying inside the small room, so she suggests they should at least go outside for now. But Toa says Shintaro tells them it is dangerous. Shiu doesn't understand why it's dangerous, as if Toa needs to learn about humans. Then Toa has to go outside. Then she asks Toa what exactly she needs to learn about humans, and tells her that being trapped there isn't right, as she is above that kind of treatment that Shintaro is giving her. Shiu says she wants Toa to come back to heaven with her right away, but Toa says God chose her to represent all angels on earth. Shiu suddenly starts paying attention to Shintaro instead of Toa. Then, Shiu moves closer to Shintaro and mentions she's sure that he also has doubts about living with Toa. But Shintaro disagrees and says he doesn't have any doubts about Toa. Then Shiu tells him that Toa lives in a completely different world from humans, which is far different from commoners like Shintaro. Shintaro agrees and tells Shiu that his life with Toa is full of surprises. Shintaro then says that it's natural for Toa to do things differently since she's from heaven. He compares it to how he will act if he goes to heaven. Shintaro assures that everything Toa does is because she cares about him, and he's not only surprised but also grateful for her. But Shiu still believes that Toa shouldn't stay with him, and she decides to take her back to heaven. She warns Toa not to trust humans, saying they always lie, and mentions that even Shintaro didn't mean what he said. Toa disagrees and tells her that Shintaro is genuinely good and kind. Then Shiu questions Toa how she can know this after just a week. Toa replies that she trusts his instincts and says Shintaro not only provides her a home, but also cares enough to scold her when needed, even though they were strangers, which also makes her very happy. Toa tells them that she is really excited when she comes to Earth, but at the same time, she is also scared. But now she feels better knowing that someone is here to care about her, and it makes her really happy. Toa tells her that's why she wants to thank Shintaro for being kind to her. And as she knows Shintaro used to live alone, she wants to stay by his side and make him happy. Shintaro feels touched by what she says, thinking it's not common for someone to promise to bring happiness into someone's life. But then Shiu feels upset and calls Toa a jerk and runs away. Shintaro and Toa try to find her, but they can't. Shintaro wonders if Shiu went outside, but Toa thinks she's still in the building because Shiu is careful and she will not go outside. Shintaro asks Toa if angels like being up high more than being close to the ground. Toa agrees, because heaven is high up, so they feel more comfortable in high places. Shintaro suggests they should find Shiu on the roof since there's a garden which might still be open. Then Toa says sorry to Shintaro for Shiu's rude behavior toward him, but Shintaro understands it, and says he thinks it comes from Shiu's love for Toa. They find Shiu on the roof, and Toa says sorry to Shiu for not considering her concern earlier. Shiu says it's okay, and then Toa offers her a hug, which Shiu accepts happily. Then Shintaro thinks kids will always be kids. He notices Shiu's cute side, but she just shows off her angry look to him. Suddenly, Shiu's necklace starts making noise, and Shintaro asks if it's going to explode. But then a voice from the necklace comes and says she'll be sent home in a minute. Shiu starts crying after hearing this, and she starts begging not to go back, because she wants to stay with Toa. Shintaro wonders if the necklace is some sort of timer. Shiu asks Toa if she really won't go home with her, and Toa says she will not. Shiu tells Toa to take care, and promises Toa to pray for her happiness. Then she tells Shintaro that if Toa is saying, then he must be a good person, as Toa is good at judging people. Then she warns Shintaro that if he hurts Toa, she'll make him regret it. Shiu admits she hasn't fully accepted Shintaro yet, and says she loves Toa more than he does. And then suddenly, she disappears. Shintaro is amazed to see her disappear. Then Toa mentions she's never been to the roof before, and seeing some vegetables, she says they are cute. She tells Shintaro that what Shiu said about learning more about humans bothered her a bit. Shintaro agrees, saying he feels the same. He reminds Toa that he told her not to go out alone because he doesn't want her to get hurt, but he thinks nothing will change if they keep doing things the same way. So, he tells Toa that they should go for walks together after dinner, and will get used to it slowly. Then he tells her that once she feels comfortable, she can go out during the day when he's at school. Instead of just saying no to her going out alone, Shintaro wants her to practice so she can do it safely. He asks Toa what she thinks, and she happily agrees. A few days have passed since they started going out for a walk after dinner. Shintaro then tells Toa that it's not safe to cross the road when the traffic lights are red or yellow. He explains that she can cross only when the sign with the walking man lights up. After the signal changes to walk, Shintaro starts crossing the road, but Toa stops him and points out that the walking man in the signal is still not moving, and Shintaro is shocked to see that. After they came back to the apartment, Shintaro says he's home. Toa wonders why he always says that when nobody's waiting for him. Shintaro says it's probably because of habit. While they're watching TV, Shintaro notices that Toa seems more comfortable going outside now. He thinks now she can learn how to use buses and trains. But he realizes he's worried about her safety more after thinking. He thinks it's too early for her to use public transport when Toa sees a fruit sandwich on TV. She says it looks pretty and delicious. Shintaro mentions that the place where they sell that sandwich is not too far if they want to go. Toa asks if the shops on TV exist for real, but Shintaro gets surprised and asks what she thought about it. Then Toa says she remembers that it's him who tells her that dramas are fictional, and then she asks if the fruit sandwiches are real too. Shintaro assures her they are. Toa is amazed that such pretty food exists. Shintaro suggests going there, but then remembers he just thought about that she wasn't ready to take trains yet. They arrived at the train station, and Shintaro asks Toa to put the ticket in the machine. Toa agrees and mentions that it is her first time on a train. She says although she had seen one up close before. Shintaro asked when, and Toa tells him that she had flown next to one the day she came to Earth. Shintaro got worried, thinking it was dangerous since Toa seemed to lack self-preservation instincts. Toa gets worried after seeing the ticket get sucked in the machine, but Shintaro reassured her to grab it when it came out the other side. Then Toa enjoyed the view during the train ride, but when they were getting off, she noticed the ticket didn't come out. Shintaro explained that it's normal, and there is no need for a ticket when getting off the train, so it's okay. As they reach the town, Toa says the town is so full of life. Shintaro agrees and warns her to be careful and not to get lost. Then he points out a direction, thinking the shop is that way. Toa immediately starts running in that direction, but Shintaro stops her, telling her to be careful. Then Toa grabs his hand and suggested they should go together. Shintaro gets surprised to see her holding his hand, but realizes she is actually holding his wrist. They go to the store and buy a fruit sandwich. Toa is surprised to see that it is the same shop they saw on TV. Then they sit down at a place and start eating. Shintaro tells Toa that it might be his first time trying a fruit sandwich, and then he asks Toa if she likes it. But when he sees Toa enjoying it so much, he realizes he doesn't need to wait for an answer. Shintaro finds Toa looking really cute while eating, and he is happy they come to town. After that, they visit many shops and enjoy the beauty of the town. Then they reach a lake and Toa gets amazed to see it. As she finds it so beautiful, Shintaro asks Toa if she wants to walk by the lake, and Toa replies yes. Then Toa sees a big swan, but Shintaro explains they are actually swan boats. Toa mentions that she read about a play called Swan Lake when she was in heaven, and it was a beautiful love story. Shintaro asks if she wants to ride one of the swan boats, and Toa agrees. While they are riding on a swan boat, Shintaro notices they are pretty close to the water. Then Toa notices that Shintaro is using his legs to move the boat, so she asks him if she could try too. Shintaro agrees, and Toa starts pedaling as well. Then Toa notices that they start moving forward. Toa enjoys it and gets excited while riding the boat. Then Shintaro reminds Toa to watch her skirt. As they are riding the swan boat, Toa greets an old couple, and the lady calls them a lovely young couple, making Shintaro nervous. Toa asks Shintaro what a couple means, but Shintaro avoids the question and says not to ask him. After the ride, Toa says it is fun, while Shintaro wonders if he is acting like it is a date. Suddenly, Toa spots a dango shop and grabs Shintaro's hand, suggesting they should go and eat some dango. Shintaro pulls his hand away and tells her that holding hands is for people in relationships, but then he realizes how silly that sounds. However, suddenly a girl accidentally bumps into Toa, by which Toa falls. Seeing this, Shintaro gets angry at the girl for not apologizing. Toa says that the girl might have something important to do. Then Shintaro apologizes to Toa for everything, admitting he sometimes feels humans are selfish. Toa tells him that caring for himself is important to care for others, making Shintaro think she's too kind. He expresses his gratitude for meeting her and suggests they should go get those dango, and Toa agrees. After a while, Toa and Shintaro head home from the city. Toa says she had a lot of fun seeing new sights and enjoys delicious fruit sandwiches and dango. Then she asks Shintaro what he'd like for dinner, but Shintaro suggests they should get convenience store meals since it's so late. Back at their apartment, as they're leaving the elevator, they notice a girl sitting outside their apartment. Shintaro finds out she is Mary. She stands up, hugs Shintaro, and asks him where he's been. However, Shintaro is shocked to see her. A few moments later, Mary starts eating food quickly in their apartment. Shintaro thinks Mary stole the meals so naturally and wonders what's going on. Mary apologizes to Shintaro, saying she couldn't check on him because she's been stuck. Shintaro tells her that she never leaves when she's working. Mary agrees and says that the more seriously she takes work, the more she becomes a shut-in. While eating, Mary explains that she spends all her time drawing, except for meals and baths. She starts coughing while talking, so Toa gives her a glass of water, for which Mary thanks her. Then Shintaro tells Toa that Mary is his aunt and she owns the apartment. Mary says that she's Shintaro's dad's little sister and she writes manga for a living. Seeing Mary's behavior, Shintaro asks if she is drunk. Mary replies that she's just extremely tired because she hasn't slept for 72 hours. Toa asks Shintaro what a manga artist is. Hearing this, Mary wonders if Toa is a sheltered rich girl because she doesn't know about manga artists. Shintaro shows Toa a manga and says Mary writes stuff like this. Toa gets excited and thinks Mary is an author, but Mary clarifies that it's not one of her works. However, Shintaro says he doesn't own anything Mary has written. Mary tearfully says to forget all about her, and Shintaro asks if she's being stupid. Then Shintaro tells Mary that she ate their dinner. Mary apologizes and explains that all those sleepless nights without food or drink have left her unable to think straight. Mary says she had to wait for Shintaro because he was gone. Shintaro suggests that she should have grabbed something to eat while waiting, but realizes that her extreme exhaustion and hunger have messed up her survival instincts. Then he asks how long she was waiting for him, to which Mary replies since 3 p.m. Shintaro asks why she didn't contact him, and Mary says she left her phone at home, because her editor installed a GPS tracking app on it. Shintaro is surprised and says that's creepy. Then, the sound of Shintaro's stomach growling fills the room. Hearing this, Toa says she'll make something to eat. However, Shintaro apologizes and says he bought meals so she wouldn't have to cook, but now she has to do it. Toa tells him not to worry about it. However, Mary stops her and says she brought a cake and asks if they want some. Shintaro gets surprised and asks if it's a whole cake and wonders what the occasion is. Mary reveals that it's her birthday and no one has wished her a happy birthday all day. She also expected her editor to say something after she finished her work, but nothing happened. Shintaro wonders if editors are supposed to celebrate authors' birthdays. Mary says that this is why she decided to eat some cake with Shintaro, and then she tearfully admits she bought her own cake for her birthday. Then Shintaro asks her not to cry. They start celebrating Mary's birthday, with Shintaro and Toa wishing her a happy birthday. Toa hands Mary a handkerchief and asks her not to cry. Mary thanks her, and then asks Shintaro who Toa is. He realizes he forgot to introduce Toa and starts to panic. He gets worried about how he will explain having a girl living with him without his aunt's permission. He thinks it would definitely get him in trouble, and there's no way he can tell her that Toa is an angel. Toa apologizes for not introducing herself sooner, and then introduces herself to Mary. She tells Mary that Shintaro has helped her a lot, and she always wanted to thank the owner of the apartment. Shintaro quickly stops Toa from saying anything more, thinking they shouldn't reveal that Toa is living with him. He realizes they need a cover story now. Mary asks Shintaro if Toa is his girlfriend. Shintaro replies that Toa is his classmate. However, it does not convince Mary, and then Mary asks if he's sure, and teases him by calling him a playboy. Shintaro explains that they are on the school festival committee, which is why they are having a meeting. Mary then asks Toa how Shintaro is at school, if he's a good boy, and if he's popular with the ladies. But Shintaro stops her from asking this. Mary says she has the right to know because she's his guardian, but Shintaro disagrees. Then Mary moves closer to Toa and tells her that Shintaro is being mean to her. Besides, she is the one who changed his diapers and gave him milk. Shintaro stops her, saying that's playing dirty. But Toa gets curious and wonders if Mary really changed Shintaro's diapers. Mary explains that she lived in the same neighborhood as Shintaro when he was little, and often looked after him because his parents worked. She remembers Shintaro being such an adorable little angel. Then Toa becomes fascinated and says she would have loved to have met little Shintaro. Mary then asks Toa if she wants her to bring pictures next time. Shintaro quickly begs her not to do that, as it would be embarrassing. But Mary insists that it's no big deal because he was cute. Toa stands up to make some tea, and Shintaro thanks her. Mary mentions how thoughtful and nice Toa is. Then she jokes about whether Toa is really an angel and says she wishes Toa would join their family. Seeing Shintaro blush, Mary clarifies that she meant she would marry Toa, not him. And then she asks how Shintaro thinks his chances look. Shintaro insists it's not like that. Mary asks if Shintaro minds if she uses the bathroom. Then Shintaro says go ahead. Inside, Mary notices 2 toothbrushes and asks why he has 2 toothbrushes. Shintaro quickly explains that he prefers to use separate ones for his front and back teeth. Mary thinks how surprising it is that Shintaro invited a girl over, as she always thought that he was passive. She realizes that living alone gives Shintaro the freedom to invite whoever he wants, do whatever he wants, and also enjoy his private space. Suddenly, Mary comes out of the bathroom and tells Shintaro not to dare dabble in substances. Shintaro gets shocked and asks what she's even saying. Mary then finds the tea good and thanks Toa. Noticing the time, Mary suggests to Shintaro that they should walk to Toa's home, mentioning that Toa's family might start worrying about her. Shintaro agrees but thinks he should have seen this coming. However, Toa looks worried hearing this. While walking, Toa asks Shintaro what they should do now, and where she is supposed to go. Shintaro tells her to split off at some point and then fly to the balcony and take care not to be seen. He asks if she can wait there until Mary leaves, to which Toa agrees. Mary notices their whispering and asks what they're talking about. Shintaro says they were just discussing the school festival. Mary apologizes for interrupting their meeting and offers to explain to Toa's family why she's getting home so late. Toa reassures her it's fine and she'll be okay from there. As Toa starts to leave, Mary stops her. Mary tells Toa that Shintaro can be a bit shy, but he's a very nice boy and asks her to continue spending time with him if she doesn't mind. Toa promises she will. Then they say goodbye and part ways. Meanwhile, Shintaro wonders how long Mary intends to stay. Then Toa flies to Shintaro's balcony, and she is pretty sure that nobody saw her. She wonders if Shintaro and Mary are back. Then she sees Shintaro and Mary sitting and talking. Shintaro asks Mary what she was talking to Toa about, but Mary says it's a secret. Shintaro then suggests that once Mary finishes her tea, she should get going. Mary replies that she isn't going anywhere tonight, as she bought a sleepover kit and stocked up on booze while at the convenience store. Shintaro insists she should go home, but Mary asks why he's suddenly treating her differently. Shintaro thinks if this happens, then Toa will have to spend the night on the balcony. Mary refuses, as if she goes, then she has to get back to work, and she can't work with an editor who forgets her birthday. Mary calls her editor a jerk and dummy Kita. Shintaro focuses on Kita and realizes that her publisher is Squeamix, and asks if she's talking about Kita Mitsuru, who is known for Overnight Oil Baron and The Legend of the Rowdy Feudal Lord. Mary is surprised that Shintaro knew the editor's name. Shintaro explains that he's a huge fan of the works Kita edits and even reads Oil Baron weekly. Mary tells him that he's creeping her out. Then Shintaro calls Kita a superstar editor whose mangas are household names. Mary replies that she's no household name, and that's why her editor doesn't care about her. Shintaro tells her to stop with the self-deprecating thoughts. Mary insists she's spending the night and will sleep on the floor, and then she asks for a blanket. Shintaro notices Toa on the balcony and feels worried for her. However, Toa uses sign language to tell him that she's okay and she is fine with sleeping on the balcony. Shintaro insists that he can't accept that. Then the doorbell rings, and Shintaro wonders who could be visiting so late at night. As he moves to open the door, Mary stops him, saying she felt a new type flash. But Shintaro ignores her and opens the door. He is shocked to see Kita, who is making a scary face. Kita then tells Mary she found her. Mary asks Kita why she is there. Then Kita explains that she searched all the places where Mary might go, and then remembered Mary had bought an apartment when she was the flavor of the month. Shintaro is surprised to find that Kita is a woman. Seeing Shintaro, Kita asks who he is. Mary jokingly replies that he is her son, and Kita gets confused. Shintaro clarifies that he is Mary's nephew, and that he is currently renting the apartment from her. He then thanks Kita for looking after his aunt. Then Kita tells Mary that if she had known Mary was looking after her teenage nephew, she wouldn't have locked her up for 2 months. Mary admits that she also forgot to mention it. Kita says Mary will check on Shintaro regularly from now on, but Shintaro insists that it is not necessary. Kita calls Mary, but Mary starts apologizing and promises to do her work. However, Kita wishes Mary a happy birthday. Mary is amazed that Kita remembered her birthday. Then Kita explains that she bought a cake and went to Mary's place, but she panicked after finding it empty. Mary is impressed to see that Kita came for her despite being so busy. Then Kita tells her that although her schedule is packed, she doesn't waste time on authors she doesn't care about. Mary feels touched and says she knew all along that Kita cares for her. Kita suggests now they go back and eat the cake, and then get started on the script. As Mary leaves the apartment, she tells Shintaro to call her anytime he needs her. Shintaro thanks her and tells Kita he's looking forward to seeing how Oil Baron goes. Then Kita thanks him and asks to hear his thoughts next time they meet. After Mary and Kita leave from there, Shintaro feels relaxed. Then Toa enters, and Shintaro apologizes to her for messing up everything. Toa tells him not to apologize and mentions that Mary seems like a fun person. Shintaro admits that Mary has usually behaved better. Toa says she's happy to see Shintaro around his family for the first time, and thought it was cute how he blushed so much. Shintaro asks her not to tease him, and Toa reassures him that she isn't. The next day, Shintaro completes his work and thinks he needs to get home quickly since Toa has dinner ready for him. As he's walking, a pretty girl bumps into him, but Shintaro gets concerned and asks if she's okay. Then two men seem to be approaching the girl, but the girl quickly tells Shintaro that she's being pursued and asks for his help. Shintaro grabs her hand, and they run to escape. The men call after them, saying they just want to return her book. They stop at a place where Shintaro thinks that this feels like a scene from a manga, where the hero saves a pretty girl on the run. The girl then starts smelling Shintaro, which surprises him. She tells Shintaro that he smells nice and delicious. Shintaro says he just finished his shift at a restaurant, and that's why he smells like food. Then the girl thanks him for helping her. He asks why she was on the run and who the men were. The girl explains that she was just walking when they started chasing her, and she doesn't know why. She speculates they might be descendants of Professor Helsing, her archenemies, who continue to plot evil against vampires 134 years after Abraham Van Helsing. Shintaro is shocked and asks if she just said vampires. The girl confirms it, and says they are descendants of Van Helsing who have crossed the seas to the Orient to wipe out vampires. However, Shintaro is still processing and remembers that he thought he might meet a devil or kappa one day, but instead, he met a vampire. The girl proudly declares herself as a vampire and introduces herself as Lilishka, the latest of the noblest bloodlines from Transylvania, the ultimate being, and the peak of all creation. Hearing this, Shintaro thinks about how he lives with an angel and has a friend who is a Yuki-onna. Then he helps a girl on the run who turns out to be a vampire. He wonders why all this is happening to him. Shintaro gets shocked to see Lilishka's colored contacts fall. Lilishka explains to him that her eyes must have dried out from all the running. Then she removes the eye patch from her right eye and reveals her red eye. She explains that it's proof of her thirst for red blood and that she is a vampire. However, she panics after another contact lens falls, and then she mentions that they cost 1,500 yen each. Shintaro asks if both were contacts, but Lilishka denies it. Shintaro tells her that she just mentioned the contacts cost 1,500 yen each, but Lilishka denies ever saying that. Shintaro thinks to himself that Lilishka is a total nutcase. He wonders what's wrong with him, as he keeps running into supernatural beings. He thinks he isn't a magnet for demi-humans, but then realizes that he still can't ignore a girl in trouble. Then Shintaro asks Lilishka if they should walk to her home, or if they should go to the cops. Lilishka replies that there's no need to go anywhere because she knows a safe place nearby. She then asks Shintaro if he would take her there. They arrive at a cafe, and Lilishka tells him that this is where she works. He wonders if high schoolers are even allowed to work as maids at a cafe, and worries about keeping Toa waiting. After that, Shintaro leaves, saying goodbye to her. Back at the apartment, Shintaro tells Toa about the vampire girl he met. He says that the girl is claiming that she is one, and says it seems like main character syndrome. Toa asks what main character syndrome is. Then Shintaro explains that it's when someone has wild fantasies that the world revolves around them. Then they say goodnight to each other and go to sleep. Later that night, Lilishka sneaks into Shintaro's apartment and starts licking his neck. It wakes up Shintaro, who screams in shock. Hearing the sound, Toa also wakes up and asks what's the matter. She sees Lilishka and wonders if they have a guest. Shintaro tells Toa that Lilishka is no guest, and she is the girl he was talking about during dinner. Shintaro then asks Lilishka what she is doing there. Lilishka replies that she tracked his scent because she couldn't forget it, as he is the first person whose scent has bothered her so much. Shintaro then asks Lilishka where she came in from, to which Lilishka replies, from the balcony. Shintaro shouts for the police and calls Lilishka a trespasser. Then Shintaro asks Lilishka to leave, but she replies that she can't, and she is not going until she gets another lick, or at least one more sniff. Shintaro thinks that Lilishka doesn't have main character syndrome. She's just a creep. He again asks her to leave, but he wonders how she even got onto the balcony. Toa gets excited as she has never met a vampire before. She says it's a pleasure to meet Lilishka. Shintaro reminds Toa that Lilishka just claims to be a vampire. Then Shintaro sees Lilishka flying and showing vampire-like teeth. He asks if those teeth are real, and Lilishka replies that they are. Shintaro gets frustrated and realizes that he actually ran into a real vampire. Lilishka mentions that this is what she has been saying all along. Then Shintaro asks her about her contacts. Lilishka explains that she is a Japanese vampire, but wishes she were an actual European vampire, so she wears them. Shintaro finds this misleading and accuses her of pretending to be something she's not. After introductions, Shintaro tells Lilishka to leave again, but she refuses. She promises not to drink his blood, and now she just wants to smell him for a while. Shintaro disagrees and asks if she bite him earlier. Lilishka replies that she didn't bite him, she only nibbled. She claims to be a vampire who respects boundaries and won't drink blood without permission. Then Lilishka reveals that she has chosen to live blood-free and doesn't need blood to survive. She can quench her thirst with similar red liquids. Shintaro asks if she means drinks like red wine or tomato juice. Lilishka replies that she drinks Welch's. Shintaro is surprised that she drinks yummy grape juice. Then he asks if she would leave if he gave her one of those drinks. Shintaro checks the fridge, but unfortunately, they don't have grape juice. Despite this, Lilishka insists that she will not leave for the drink as she is still focused on Shintaro because he smells too good. Then Shintaro asks Lilishka if she would like some pickled plum instead, but Lilishka insists she must have him. She pleads to let her nibble on him just once and promises to leave afterward. After a while, they all end up sleeping in one bed, while Shintaro is frustrated that Lilishka hasn't left. Lilishka says she really can't resist and asks Shintaro to let her stick her fangs in. However, Shintaro refuses. The next morning, Shintaro finds that Lilishka is gone. He thinks he can't tell if she was cool or just boisterous. Toa wakes up and tells Shintaro that she's not very knowledgeable about these things, but asks if vampires exposed to sunlight turn to ash. Shintaro wonders if Lilishka was reduced to ash. While walking on the school campus, he keeps thinking about what happened at home and how Toa seemed worried, as she repeatedly asked what they would do now while he tried to calm her down. Despite not seeing any ash on the floor, Toa suggested not cleaning the floor today. Shintaro still wonders if Lilishka really burned to ash, but concludes she must have just gone home. He wishes that he could confirm it to give Toa peace of mind, but all he knows about her is her name. Then he suddenly realizes that he also knows where she works, so if needed, he could go there and ask. Then Tsutsumi greets Shintaro and asks him why he seems down. Shintaro replies that he didn't get much sleep last night. Tsutsumi says she understands why he might have panicked, as she also knows that the finals cover a lot of material. Shintaro asks what she means by finals. Tsutsumi reminds him about their final exams, which are only a week away. Shintaro realizes he completely forgot about the exams, as he has been busy with other thoughts like where to take Toa next. At lunch, Suichi asks Shintaro where he is going. Shintaro replies that he's heading to the school store because he didn't bring lunch today. Suichi asks Shintaro to get some pudding for him if there's any left. At the school store, Shintaro buys the food and feels glad that he managed to get the pudding, but he starts feeling hungry as he skipped breakfast in the morning. So he decides to eat his rice ball first. He finds a place to sit and starts eating the rice ball, but suddenly out of nowhere, Lilishka appears and licks the food from his cheek. Shintaro is shocked and asks her why she's there. Lilishka tells Shintaro that she saw rice on his cheek, so she ate it. Then Shintaro asks about her cosplay uniform and trespassing in school. However, Lilishka reveals that she's actually a student there. Seeing her navy-colored uniform, Shintaro asks which year and class she's in. Lilishka replies she's in class 2. Shintaro asks if she already knew about him, but she denies it and says she just followed a familiar scent she smelled outside his classroom. She explains that she can track any scent she's familiar with, which is how she found his place last night. Shintaro wonders if she's sure she's a vampire and not a dog. Then he tells her that he's glad she's okay because he was afraid she had been reduced to ash. Lilishka tells him that she dislikes the sun, but she won't burn up. Shintaro realizes that's why she wears a hoodie. Then Shintaro asks her why she left without saying anything in the morning. Lilishka explains that they were both asleep, and she needed to go home and change into her uniform before coming to school. Then Shintaro tells her that he's glad she's okay and leaves from there. Back in the classroom, Suichi thanks Shintaro for bringing pudding, while Tsutsumi asks Shintaro if there was a long line since he took so much time. Then Shintaro asks Tsutsumi if she knows a girl named Lilishka from class 2, but Tsutsumi replies she doesn't. Shintaro describes Lilishka's appearance, mentioning that she has silver hair and wears a hoodie with bunny ears. Tsutsumi replies that she thinks she has seen her around. Then another girl asks if he means Kagami. Shintaro asks if her full name is Kagami Lilishka. The girl replies that she thinks it was actually Kagami Sayuri. Upon hearing this, Shintaro wonders who Lilishka is. Tsutsumi suddenly points at Lilishka, who is hiding behind the door, and asks if that's her. Shintaro gets shocked and finds it scary. After school, Shintaro realizes that he doesn't have work today, so he decides to go straight home and tell Toa that Kagami is fine. As he is about to leave, Tsutsumi stops him and offers to lend him her notes which cover all the exam material, as she noticed that he hasn't been able to focus in class. Shintaro gratefully accepts the offer. Then Tsutsumi suggests they go to the library to copy the notes, and Shintaro agrees. Tsutsumi feels proud, thinking that while she might not be as direct as Noel, she can still help in her own way. But suddenly, a bat appears in front of Shintaro with a message to follow it. Shintaro apologizes to Tsutsumi and says he can't go to the library because something urgent has come up. He starts following the bat, and along the way, Noel calls him, but he ignores her. Shintaro follows the bat to a place that looks haunted. He hesitates, mentioning that he doesn't want to go in there, but then Lilishka opens the door and welcomes him. She tells Shintaro that he kept her waiting. Shintaro gets irritated and asks her to stop sending bats flying around the school. Lilishka explains that the bat is her familiar. She questions if Shintaro refuses the honor of being her servant, as he could miss out on serving an ultra-cute senior. But Shintaro says he's good without that. Then he asks if this servant thing would actually be better. Lilishka tries to sweeten the deal by offering a ticket to her birthday event next year, with an estimated value of 3,000 yen. Shintaro still refuses, asking why she even thinks that would work. Then she asks Shintaro what his desire is and what his price is. Shintaro replies that those things don't matter to him and he can't accept the offer. Shintaro tells her that he doesn't even understand what started this weird servant thing. He then asks what's gotten into her. Lilishka gets sad and explains that this happens because he told her not to come over anymore. And in the schoolyard, it seemed like he didn't want to be seen with her. And in his classroom, it seemed like he didn't want people to think they were acquainted. Shintaro replies that that's not what he was thinking. Hearing this, Shintaro realizes why Lilishka sent her familiar to get him. It's her way of hiding the fact from others that they know each other. Then Lilishka starts crying, and explains that she feels like fate brought Shintaro to her, because his scent is the most unforgettable she's ever encountered. She wants to sniff him for life, but feels hurt because Shintaro told her not to come over. Feeling she has no choice, she decides to become his master and orders him to let her sniff him. Shintaro gets confused and asks why. Lilishka insists that if he won't accept her as his master, he should at least let her sniff him for now, and they can resume negotiations afterward. Lilishka moves toward Shintaro, repeatedly telling him she must sniff him or she'll lose her mind. But Shintaro tries to calm her down. Meanwhile, Tsutsumi and Noel arrive there and apologize to Shintaro for following him. However, Noel gets mad at Shintaro and asks how he can be so close to Lilishka but never even hugged her. Both Noel and Tsutsumi are shocked when they see Lilishka flying. Shintaro explains everything to them, but both Noel and Lilishka are confused, as they don't believe Lilishka is a vampire. Lilishka tells Noel that power attracts power. Noel gets excited to see a vampire girl, as she loves vampires almost as much as she loves angels. However, she warns Lilishka to stay away from Shintaro, as he is her friend. Tsutsumi is also sad because Shintaro didn't tell her that he'd already met a vampire. Shintaro tries to comfort her, but Lilishka interrupts with an apology, saying she didn't consider whether she was being a bother. Lilishka admits that Shintaro helped her when she was in trouble, but she overstepped by finding his home and showing up unannounced, and by tracking his scent to his class. She confesses that she lost control of herself after meeting him, something that has never happened before. She doesn't know what to do, but wishes to be friends with Shintaro. Shintaro realizes that life as a vampire must be harder than he imagined. Noel also comforts Lilishka by mentioning her own struggles with controlling her blizzards. Then Shintaro tells Lilishka she is welcome to come over, but she can't sniff him at school. Lalishka gets excited and asks if she can really come back. Shintaro confirms and mentions that Toa is worried about her too, but insists that Lalishka use the front door from now on. Lalishka happily agrees. Seeing this, Noel says she wants to visit Shintaro's place too, and Shintaro says he has to ask Toa first. Tsutsumi also wishes she could go too, but feels too shy to say it. After a week, Toa sings while doing laundry. She gets sweaty and feels too hot just after folding the laundry. When Toa looks outside, she notices the seasons are changing for the first time since she came to Earth. Meanwhile, at school, Shintaro, Noel, and Tsutsumi feel relaxed because their finals are finally over. But Shintaro points out that they're back in the occult club's room again for some reason. He mentions he never expected they'd spend so much time there. A week ago, Noel said she wanted to ask Shintaro if they could study together, as she thinks studying for exams with friends is what friends do. Then Noel suggests they could study at either her place or his. Shintaro agrees, and Tsutsumi says she also wants to join too. Shintaro says he needs to ask Toa first since he's never actually studied with friends before. Then Lalishka asks, why not study here? And this surprises everyone. Back to the present, Noel says using the occult club's room really helped. Tsutsumi agrees, and says they owe Lalishka a lot. Seeing Mafumafu, Tsutsumi says they've become friends with him too. But then she hears Lalishka's voice saying that if they ask her, then she will say that Tsutsumi carried most of the load. Things start getting weird as Lalishka appears from the coffin. After opening the coffin, Lalishka says she truly appreciates all the help over the exam period. Shintaro finds it strange that she shows up in a coffin like it's nothing, to which Lalishka says she was simply divine. Tsutsumi tells her that it wasn't that big a deal. Shintaro tells her that it's true, as he would have failed if it wasn't for her. For the past week, Tsutsumi has been helping each of them solve questions and formulas. Lalishka admires Tsutsumi's explanations and attentiveness. Shintaro also thanks Tsutsumi, but Tsutsumi gets embarrassed and asks them to stop teasing her. Then she wonders if Shintaro just called her Tsutsumi for the first time. When Shintaro asks what she's thinking, she replies, nothing. Then Tsutsumi mentions that now that exams are over, their presence might bother the other occult club members. Shintaro agrees and says he kind of assumed Lalishka was the only member, but of course, there'd be others. He suggests they should leave, so they don't cause any trouble. Then Noel asks if they should stop somewhere to celebrate the end of exams. Tsutsumi asks if she means a cafe or something, and Noel confirms it. Shintaro thinks it sounds good and asks Kagami if she wants to join them, but Lalishka asks him to hold on, and reveals that Kagami Sayuri is the fake name she uses undercover, asking them to call her Lalishka instead. Shintaro is confused and asks why she always strikes a pose. Lalishka explains that the noble name Lalishka comes from mixing Yuri, as in Lily and Sayuri, with a famous vampire's name. Then Shintaro points out that she just admitted that Lalishka is her fake name. Lalishka strikes a pose and insists she will be the one to choose her name. Shintaro is shocked to see her pose again. Then Noel interrupts and asks Lalishka if by famous vampire's name she means the one from Van Helsing. Lalishka replies, indubitably. Watching them, Shintaro thinks these two are somehow on the same wavelength, and then suggests they should leave now. But then he remembers something and asks Lalishka if she has at least 3 members to make her club an official club. Lalishka confidently replies that she does. She mentions herself and then introduces the president by showing a skeleton. Shintaro is shocked and asks why she has a skeleton. Lalishka says she found it in storage. But when Shintaro opens the door, a girl bumps into him. Shintaro quickly asks if she's okay and apologizes to her. Then Lalishka introduces her as Tsurumi, the other occult club member. Upon seeing Tsurumi, he introduces himself and says he is from Class 1. When he says nice to meet you to her, Tsurumi hides behind Lalishka. Shintaro gets worried and thinks she might hate him. But Lalishka reassures him and tells him that Tsurumi is always like this and hates humans. But Tsurumi corrects her and explains that she's just shy and has social anxiety. Then Tsutsumi apologizes to Tsurumi and informs her that they were using the room to study for finals. But they will leave now. As they start to leave, Shintaro stops and asks Lalishka what she will do now, as Tsurumi is here to manage the club. He asks Lalishka if she wants to stay and focus on the club. Lalishka thinks for a moment and decides to go with them. She tells Shintaro that she has something important to discuss. On their way, Lalishka tells them that the Occult Research Club only had third-year members, and they graduated earlier this year. The club was supposed to close, but it stayed alive because Tsurumi and she joined. Shintaro asks her if they are the only members now. Lalishka agrees and says they are in a very doubtful position. If nobody else joins, the club will go from being the official occult research club to an unofficial one. So Lalishka asks them to join the club to keep it alive, but Shintaro declines. Then Lalishka asks Shintaro if he doesn't want to spend time with his cute senior, but Shintaro still says no. Lalishka tries to entice him by mentioning they have AC and soft drinks. Shintaro finds it tempting but still refuses. Noel and Tsutsumi are surprised to see that Shintaro isn't joining. Shintaro asks if this is what Lalishka wanted to discuss. Then Shintaro apologizes to Tsurumi for dragging her into this and asks if she likes the occult club. Tsurumi gets nervous and starts crying, which makes Shintaro feel bad. He apologizes and tells Tsurumi that she doesn't have to talk to him if she doesn't want to. He still thinks Tsurumi hates him. Lalishka explains that Tsurumi loves books, but freaks out when people sit beside her in the library, so she reads in the club room. Shintaro understands but wonders why she picked the occult club. Noel asks Shintaro where he wants to celebrate. Then she suggests they decide while walking to the station. Tsutsumi proposes a casual restaurant where they have multiple drink options. Shintaro suggests Mrs. D's by the station because it has a big dining space. Then they notice a festival happening. Noel says this is no time for Mrs. D's. Everyone seems interested in the festival, but when Tsurumi sees Shintaro up close, she hides behind Lalishka. Shintaro worries if Tsurumi really can't stand him. At the festival, Tsutsumi says that it feels different when it's bright out. Noel asks Shintaro if going to a festival with friends happens in real life too. Shintaro replies that it's a first time for him as well. Tsutsumi asks Tsurumi if she goes to festivals often. Tsurumi says she likes festivals, especially summer ones. Tsutsumi agrees with her, as summer festivals have a free-spirited vibe. Suddenly, Shintaro wonders where Lalishka went, but then Lalishka appears in front of him with a lot of stuff. Shintaro is amazed at how Lalishka got all swagged out in an instant. Then Lalishka says each person carries multiple personalities within themselves and manifesting one, and wearing it proudly can also be a form of expression. Lalishka asks Shintaro what's wrong and if something is bothering him. Then she tells Shintaro that his scent now has the bittersweet, which she kind of likes, and asks to nibble on him for a bit. Shintaro gets confused but says no to the nibble. Again, Lalishka asks him to tell her what's bothering him. Shintaro goes near Lalishka and tells her that he feels like Tsurumi is especially scared of him, but not so much with the other girls. He asks if it's because he startled her right off the bat. Then Lalishka tells Shintaro that maybe Tsurumi is mad at him because he saw her panties. Both Shintaro and Tsurumi are shocked. Tsurumi says no, and Shintaro also says he doesn't think he saw her panties. But Noel thinks she can't say Tsurumi's panties weren't visible and tells Shintaro it was an accident, like when Shintaro saw hers. Shintaro replies that he didn't see them this time. Tsutsumi thinks Shintaro's desperate pleas are only backing Tsurumi further into a corner. Tsutsumi says she is feeling hungry and wants to grab a bite, and asks them to split up for a bit. Noel agrees and grabs Shintaro's hand to go away from there. They go to the festival, enjoy playing multiple games, and see many things. Then they eat shaved ice, and Noel says it's great and that grabbing a bite with friends is so friend-like. Seeing some people eating buttered potatoes, Noel says she wants to eat some buttered potatoes too and goes to get one. Everyone joins her, and Shintaro notices the girls are going all out on the food. He realizes maybe he should get something too. Shintaro walks and finds grilled corn and chilled cucumber stalls. He decides to try a chilled cucumber. Then he sees Tsurumi also looking at chilled cucumbers and asks her if she wants one too. Tsurumi gets nervous again. Shintaro thinks he startled her again and apologizes, suggesting they should just get some. He asks the shopkeeper for 2 chilled cucumbers. Then he tells her he will eat his over there, and that she can relax and enjoy it. As Shintaro starts to leave, Tsurumi stops him and tells him he has got it wrong. Shintaro wonders what he got wrong, and asks if she doesn't want the cucumber at all. Before she can respond, the others appear there. They stop at a place where Noel says she's so full, but Tsutsumi points out that she's still going to town on that shaved ice. Noel agrees and says it was so much fun, but she doesn't want to go. Shintaro tells them that it's getting dark and they should head home. Shintaro thinks this isn't how he expected to enjoy a summer festival, as he never would have imagined it. They hit up a festival after exams and had fun with friends. He thinks it was a good day. He wonders it would have been even better if Toa were here. He decides to come back with Toa, assuming that she'll love the festival. They notice Lilishka looking at the sunset. Lilishka says, "The golden ball of fire sinks, and in its place rises a pale moon." As Venus begins to shine, the curtain is drawn on an evening of chaos. But Shintaro finds it cringy. Lilishka continues saying some weird stuff. But then Shintaro notices that she might fall into the river. So he rushes to save her, but ends up falling in himself. He realizes too late that Lilishka can fly. Everyone is shocked. Meanwhile, Tsurumi jumps into the river to save Shintaro. Underwater, Shintaro realizes he can't breathe and thinks it's weird because the river shouldn't be so deep. As he sinks, Tsurumi grabs his hand and pulls him out of the water. Everyone rushes to Shintaro and asks if he's okay and not hurt. Then Shintaro replies that he's fine. Lilishka asks for forgiveness as she got too carried away. Shintaro tells her she really scared him there. Then he thanks Tsurumi for helping him. Tsurumi explains that she's not used to talking to boys and got too nervous to talk to him, so she wasn't scared of him or anything. She apologizes for not saying it sooner and making it awkward for him. Shintaro says he's so glad and apologizes for making her nervous, acknowledging she might have tried to tell him this several times. Tsurumi tells Shintaro it's not his fault. Shintaro thinks he's glad they talked it out, and thinks today is a good day, aside from the whole falling into the river thing. Suddenly, they notice some light coming from Tsurumi's head. Tsutsumi asks them to hold on and look at Tsurumi, and then they notice something on Tsurumi's head spreading light. Noel asks if that's a halo. Seeing that, Shintaro asks Tsurumi if she is an angel, but Tsurumi refuses. Then they notice a shell on Tsurumi's back. Shintaro asks if that means the thing on her head is a Kappa's dish. Tsutsumi is shocked and falls back after realizing they now have a Kappa among them. Lilishka says she didn't expect Tsurumi's secret to be revealed so quickly. Shintaro asks Lilishka if she knew about this. Then why didn't she tell them? Lilishka explains she didn't have Tsurumi's permission. Shintaro accepts this, thinking that Lilishka has her rare sensible moments too. Tsurumi seems confused and distressed, wondering why this is happening as it wasn't supposed to. Lilishka asks if Tsurumi ate any cucumber. Tsurumi confirms she did. Then Lilishka explains that Tsurumi turns into a Kappa if she makes contact with water within an hour of eating cucumber. Shintaro feels guilty as he thinks it's his fault for buying her the cucumber. Lilishka says that Tsurumi is no ordinary Kappa. Shintaro asks what she means by that. Lilishka explains that Tsurumi's grandfather is the boss of the All-Japan Kappa Federation that secretly runs Japan, which means Tsurumi is the future #1 Kappa of Japan. Shintaro finds this information overwhelming. However, Tsurumi still seems confused and wonders what she should do. But Noel reassures her and tells her that all three of them know about Lilishka's secret, and Tsurumi is safe with them. This makes Tsurumi happy, and she thanks them. Then Shintaro asks Tsurumi if she'd like to meet one more person, to which Tsurumi agrees. Shintaro goes and comes back with Toa. When Toa arrives and sees Tsurumi as a Kappa, she is amazed and expresses her honor at meeting her right after meeting a vampire. However, Shintaro quickly points out that Toa's wings are showing and asks her to hide them. And that's the end of the video. Please comment and let me know if you want a recap of the next episode of this anime. As always, if you liked what you saw, subscribe to the channel. I'll be uploading a lot of videos just like this one, and I'll see you in the next one. Till then, goodbye.